Hello and welcome to Hacking 101, creating a hacking lab. Nah, I'm kidding, guys. I am not that boring and monotonous, and this course is not going to be boring and monotonous, and I think we're going to have a lot of fun. So, first of all, before we get started, I want to thank you for purchasing this course. I truly, truly appreciate it. And what you signed up for here is to learn how to create a hacking lab. So the big benefit here is, look, I get it. People are ethical hacking right now is huge, and people want to get in the field and learn how to do it. The worst thing you can do is go out and try to hack a live website. And the big benefit here is you're going to be able to have your own hacking environment in a controlled lab type of setting where you can hack away, continue learning, and when you're there, you can go out into the real world and get contracted and get approved to do hacking on a website. So, we are here to learn how to do a hacking lab, so let's get to it. So, right up front, let's talk a little bit about the game plan here, okay? The introduction and agenda. So, first thing, I'll give you guys a quick disclaimer about this course, about your actions, my actions, things like that. Then we're going to talk a little bit about me, your instructor, who I am, what's my background look like, both from a professional standpoint and an educational standpoint, and why I think I am somewhat qualified to teach this kind of course. Third, let's talk about what you should do. So these are going to be takeaways that I've always kept in mind as I've been doing this type of work. It's something you should keep in mind as you continue to test, continue to grow in this type of field. And then we're going to get into the real deal. We're going to be setting up your hacking environment. So we're going to talk about what virtualization is. I will walk you through the process of setting up a virtualized environment. And then we're going to start setting up the vulnerable machines. We're going to do that in 3 different phases. Number 1, we'll talk about what it is that you're installing. Number 2, we're going to do a demo of the installation process. And number 3, after it's been installed, we're going to talk about what the benefit of this tool is in the big picture. So setting up your virtualized environment, then we're going to set up Kali Linux, which is going to have all the tools that you're going to need to do your pen testing and ethical hacking work. Then we're going to set up your first vulnerable application, which is going to be the damn vulnerable web application. Then we're going to set up WebGoat, which is your second vulnerable application. And then I'm going to share with you some external websites that were created for the purpose of getting hacked. So once you've kind of worked through these localized environments and you've gotten pretty good at what you do from a pen testing perspective, then we can go to these external websites and do larger missions, larger challenges. And then we're going to close it out. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started with the disclaimer. Okay, so I have to put this out there, and I need for you to understand that this course is for educational purposes only. So the interesting thing about this one line is that by me putting this out there, it absolves me from any wrongdoing that you may do. But it does not absolve you from any wrongdoing you may do. So please, please understand that I am teaching you this based for educational purposes only. So ultimately, I think your goal here would be learn it, get really good at it, utilize it as much as you want, and then get into the field and get contracted and get written approval. So I'm going to harp on this a little bit more later, but please understand this course is for educational purposes only. Hey guys, welcome back. You made it through the first video. Congratulations, I am extremely proud of you. So now, second video, let's talk a little bit about me, okay? I could do this all day. I could make a 12-hour video talking about me, but I'll try to keep it short and concise, right? And I'll try to keep it to points that matter to you. So the goal and purpose of this section of the slide deck is to share with you a little bit about my background, educational and professional, and I'll share a couple of stories with you as we go through there, but just to kind of show to you that I am somewhat qualified to teach this kind of course. So let's get started. So first and foremost, let me formally now introduce myself. My name is RS Gunny. I am a pen tester and a IT auditor. I have formal education in the ways that you see in front of you. I have an associate degree in accounting. I have a bachelor's degree in management information systems and finance. I did a master's degree in marketing, and I am in the process of finishing up another master's degree in cybersecurity. And I'm going to be done with this in about 26 days, at which point I will be so relieved. As far as certifications go, I am a certified information systems auditor. That's a CISA through ISACA. I am a certified information systems security professional, the CISSP, that's through ISC squared. I'm a certified ethical hacker, that's a CEH through the EC Council. I am a cloud computing security professional, CCSP, and that is also through ISC squared. And I am Six Sigma Green Belt certified. So, for those not familiar with what Six Sigma is, it's a process improvement methodology. So they have green belt and black belt. Green belt being the first of the two. So it's something interesting to learn, and it looks pretty good on the resume too. So, as far as professional experience goes, I have over 15 years of IT security experience. I've been very fortunate. I've been able to work with very large companies such as General Electric and Ernst & Young, and I've had the opportunity to work as an ethical hacker for a part of my career. Now, I had gone down to Virginia to start a new job, and I was an IT auditor by trade. But the second day that I was in that job, the company I used to work for got hacked. We were an external facing company, it was a media company. We had a huge web presence, and one of our websites got hacked. So, my second day there, the CEO of the company calls myself and my boss into his office, and he said, "Look, guys, I don't care how this happened, but this better never ever happen again." So, I became an ethical hacker overnight from being an auditor. So I was very fortunate in having really, really good mentors available to me to kind of learn this trade. I was more fortunate to be able to do this on a day-to-day basis because you do learn a lot by doing. So this is one of those stories where ethical hacker is huge right now. I mean, it's the hottest thing going from a job perspective, but this was one of those cases where ethical hacking came looking for me as opposed to me going and looking for it like you guys are doing. So I've been very fortunate and I'm very thankful for that. As far as other teaching experience goes, I love teaching. I think that when you are teaching, you are required by nature to become a subject matter expert in whatever it is that you're teaching. So, by day I'm an auditor or an ethical hacker. By night I'm a teacher. I used to teach at the Continuing Education Center down in Virginia Beach, where I taught three different courses. So the first one was internet safety, and this was around. It was more for the elderly around how do you traverse the internet, how does patching, antivirus, things like that work? How do you keep yourself from being a target to phishing attack or other social engineering? So just internet safety and safety related to technology. The next one was data backup and recovery. So my wife and I, we have three kids. My first daughter, she's 10 now, but we used to take a lot of digital pictures of her, right? That happens with the first kid. By the third kid, you don't even bring the camera out anymore. But by one of these days, this computer on which we would keep all of their uh, pictures on, it went corrupt. The hard drive no longer wanted to work. So my wife told me that I need to figure out how to get that data back because it was that important to her and to me as well. So I became an expert on data forensics and recovery exercises. I made a course out of that, and I was teaching how do you back up, how does incremental backup work, how do full backups work, how do you test the backup, and in the event that something does go wrong, how do you restore a backup? And then the third course that I was teaching was cutting the cord. So this was about 10 years ago, and And back then there was a trend that was starting where people were just getting tired of paying exorbitant cable fees. So I basically learned and went on for many years, and even till today, not to buy internet or cable services, but to be able to utilize internet to stream whatever kind of shows or movies we want to watch. So it was around, how do you find the right sources to look at the stuff? How do you make sure you're not going to the wrong places? How do you know you're not clicking on malware or any other kind of virus? So that was a lot of fun, ahead of my time, I would say, as far as where the trend is today. I think there's a huge population that's cutting the cord today. So that's me. That's my background. You guys are going to be going through some technical stuff here. You guys are going to be setting up some technical things here. So I have put my email address out here. Should you have any questions, comments, concerns, or if you just want to send me an email and compliment me, you can do so at agani7860@gmail.com. I've historically been pretty good at responding, so 24 to 48 hours, and you will get a response from me. And if you happen to get stuck, reach out, and we'll work together to get it resolved. And then the last thing I want to hit on here is Facebook. I have opened up a Facebook page where I'm hoping if you are a Facebook user, you will start to follow us. And in there, we're going to talk about upcoming courses. We're going to take feedback on current courses. And in the event that additional courses are released, which the game plan is to ultimately do that, then we're going to be sharing coupon codes and discount codes on there. So if you're a Facebook user, we'd love to have you as a part of a group. It just started. We've only got a handful of members, but I do see this growing exponentially. So with that said, I am your instructor, RF Gunny. I look forward to this class, and I think we're going to have a lot of fun. Hello. So this section, let's talk about what you should do. Again, these are takeaways that I'm hoping that you keep in mind as you do this course and additional courses going forward. So, number one, you should set up your own lab. I mean, that's what you're here for, right? This is what this course is all about. We're going to set up a lab. We're not going to go into how to exploit these vulnerable applications at this point. I think that's just a whole new set of videos that I'll create at some point down the road. But for now, you want to set up your own lab. And I kind of hit on this earlier, where you want to have a nice controlled environment where you could do your pen testing. In the event the virtual machine crashes, or in the event that you break something, or you shut a service down by accident, it doesn't matter because you're within your contained and controlled environment. If you're going to break something through the learning process, you want to do it through a controlled environment. So number one, set up your own lab. You're definitely at the right place for that. So good first step. Number two, we're going to be setting up vulnerable apps on your devices here, right? One of them is going to be called Damn Vulnerable Web Application, right? Like, think about that, right? Just think about that name, Damn Vulnerable Web Application. This thing uses PHP, so for that, you're going to have to turn on Apache. It uses a backend database, so for that, you're going to have to turn on MySQL. So when you are done pen testing, or when you turn on your pen testing module, you turn these services on. When you're done with your pen testing, you need to make sure you turn these services off, especially if your machine is external facing and connected to the internet. So think about what you're doing. If you're going to turn something on, turn it off at the end of the day. And your VM, make sure you turn that off at the end of the day as well. Number three, segregate your network from the outside world. So just my story here, I have a computer that I have set up that remains on a segregated network, very limited inbound and very limited outbound connection. And I turn off my services every night, but even in the time that I'm hacking, why do they need to be open to the outside world? I don't ever want to even accidentally put myself in a situation where I'm accidentally hacking a true website rather than a controlled environment. So segregate the network, close it off if you can. You can simply turn off your Wi-Fi after you get everything set up. Turn off your Wi-Fi or unplug your Ethernet cable, because once we've got this virtual machine set up, it'll all run within a contained environment, and it'll be a local server local services running, so it'll all happen contained. So segregate from the outside world. The next two, take your time trying to exploit and research what you don't understand. So you're going to have a lot of tools with Kali Linux, right? 600 plus actually, and we'll go into that. You want to learn what you're doing and conceptually understand why it worked or why it didn't. So my advice to you, research what you don't understand. If you're able to hack something and you're successful, excellent. I'm proud of you. I'm very happy for you. But you need to go out and research why it worked. If you go out and find that it didn't work, then you need to go out and research why it didn't work. So obviously, if it didn't work, you'll go research and you'll figure it out, right? But if it did work, why do you want to go out and do additional research? You should feel like the boss at that point, right? Well, the reason is because not all environments are going to be the same. The hacking that you've done in the vulnerable environment may not be the same type of vulnerability that you find in another environment, or the configuration might be different, or the authentication method might be different. So continue being successful, right? But when you are successful, understand conceptually what happened there and why it worked. So take your time trying to exploit, research what you don't understand. Think about remediation. So going back to my story about stealing credit card numbers and stuff, um, you got to think back about what my boss said. My boss said to me, I don't care how this happened, but it never better happen again. They don't care about when it took place or how it took place. They want to make sure it never happens again. That's the remediation portion. So unless you want to go on with your life and become a bounty hunter for someone like Google or Microsoft and look for vulnerabilities in their applications, people not want that report, a pen test report. They want to know what was broken, but moreover, they want to know how you fix it. So always think about remediation. Next one is don't hack external websites without a contract. I think I've harped on this already. Please, please, please make sure that it is a written and approved contract before you hit any external websites. In my previous job, I have been able to do some really good work. We've had nights where I have been up, and I used to work from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. And I've been up stealing credit card numbers, and I was able to exploit tens of thousands of credit card numbers, right? And that's great news. I mean, it's such a rush when you're doing it. But the next day, I had to go into the company and tell them, "Hey guys, look, this is what I stole. This is what I did. How I stole it, and this is what you need to do to make sure it never happens again." Again, think about remediation, right? There were other times where I was doing scans on a server and the server went down and they were down for about 4 hours, right? Like things like this, if they happen and I exploit something and I break something, if I did not have a contract, a written contract that I could fall back on, I wouldn't be sitting here doing classes right now. I'd probably be in some penitentiary. So, guys, I used to work with the FBI, and I can tell you for a fact that they take this stuff very, very seriously, especially if it's a US based IP address. So do not hack any external websites without a contract. And this last one is learn to hack, but understand how to remediate. So that kind of brings everything together, right? Your goal here is to become an ethical hacker. Your goal, your end product needs to say what you did, how you did it, and how they fix this. Learn to hack, but learn to remediate. Hey guys. Okay. So let's start. Okay. I think I've done enough talking. From your perspective, it's like a few minutes, but from my perspective, it seems like it's been going on for hours. So we need to start setting up your environment. And before we even set it up, we need to kind of start at the basics. We are going to be setting up a virtualized environment on your machine. Before we do that, I'm going to take a couple of minutes to kind of explain to you what a virtualized environment is, what your options are, and I'm going to share with you what I'm going to be going with as far as installation goes. Well, it says VMware on here, so I think I kind of ruined that surprise, but we'll do all the other stuff. So, what is virtualization? It is the process of creating a software-based or virtual representation of something. So, what in plain English, what that means is, you say you're running a Windows box, okay? We're gonna put a virtual host on your machine, and or a and that host is going to have multiple clients, which you can do different OSs, different type of vulnerable systems, things like that. So we're going to take your Windows operating system, we're going to put an application on it, and that application is going to allow us to break into other operating systems. So when you look down below, there are many options here, okay? You have VMware and you have VirtualBox, VBox. These two are probably the biggest players in the market right now. And the reason these two make the top of the list is because they are very well integrated with Kali Linux, which is the set of tools that you're going to need to do your hacking. You do have other options, and they're all listed here, but I use VMware for multiple reasons. Number one is because I have a license for it. It's an older version than the one that's out there now, but the functionality is the same. Number two, for you, VMware actually gives a 60-day free trial to their product, full functionality. So you can definitely download that, and if it works for you, then purchase it long run, right? And number three is, as I mentioned, it is integrated with Kali Linux. Kali Linux is one of the ISO files that we're going to load up. So if you use one of the other VM machine types, then you're going to have to load up Kali Linux and tell it what kind of operating system it is and how you want to configure it by detail. Whereas if you do VMware, you simply download the right ISO file, you load it up. So you're not creating a new one, you're loading one up as if it's already existed. So it makes the work a lot easier. So again, from my perspective, I'm going to be using VMware, but you are more than free to use whatever you want. And now, I'm sure you want to get your hands a little dirty, so we're going to do our first demo, and that is going to be the quick installation process for VMware. Hey guys, welcome back. So we are finally going to start installing things on your machine to kind of get you going in that direction. So I say finally. From your perspective, you've gone through maybe about 10 minutes worth of video. From my perspective, it's been about 4 hours since I've been doing all this work. So for me, it's finally. Okay, for you, it's 10 minutes in. But anyway, let's get this started. So first and foremost, we talked about virtualization, and I talked to you about all the different options you have. So we're going to be using, or I'm going to be using, VMware. So at the end of the day, this is what we want to end up with. Okay, I'm using Workstation Pro 12, but what you can do is you can get a trial version. So this is what I want to share with you guys. Now, when you go to your search engine and you put in VMware, you're going to see their official site pop up on top. And of course, like any company, they want to make the sales, right? You go to the official site, you hit the download button, and it'll bring you over here. And what we're looking for over here is the application or end user computing app called Workstation Pro. When you look over here, you'll see the download product option and drivers and tools option. But when I look a little further up, you'll see they have options for download trial. That's not showing up down here. So what you need to do is step back, go back to your search engine and put in VMware trial. Okay, and that's going to bring up their evaluate VMware products page. And over here, you'll be able to get VMware for free for 60 days. So you click that link, it's going to show up like this. You are going to expand the one that says personal desktop, and you're going to download the free trial version for VMware Workstation Pro. So once you get that downloaded, it's pretty easy. It's a standard executable file. You're going to download it, run the exe file. They're going to ask you for your email address, and after that, you can just go through, get your 60 days for free. In the event that you choose that you want to purchase this, I believe this VMware product is $199. Let me see if I can find that. But well worth it. I mean, at least from my point of view, if you're going to be doing this quite a bit down the road, well worth it to purchase it. So, of course, I can't find it, but at some point later in this video, I will circle back and I will find out what it will be going for. But again, I have a version of this. I think the one that you guys are going to be using is going to be updated. I think they're up to 16, but the one, or they're up to 14. But the one that I'm using is an older version, which is 12. It works just the same. So easy for the step. Get the free trial, download it, run the exe file, and then when you're there and your station looks like what you're seeing on my screen right now, then that's a go. We'll get to the next step after that, which is going to be installing Kali Linux. All right, so I will see you guys on the other side. Bye. Okay, so now that we've got VMware loaded up and you kind of understand what that's all about, now we need to start loading the tools onto your machine. First one is going to be Kali Linux, but before we get into the actual installation of the product, let's talk real high level what it is, okay? So, Kali Linux is a Debian-derived Linux distribution designed for digital forensics and penetration testing. This comes right from their website. It has over 600 pen testing tools that are already pre-installed on there. You are going to have to do an update because you got to keep in mind it's going to be a static image that you download, but the tools are all there. It is pretty heavy on the VM. Okay, it does require a minimum of 20 gigs of hard drive space for the installation, and it requires a good solid processor. So just keep that in mind as we go through this installation. If your machine is not beefy enough, then maybe that's another conversation we need to have. But today's machines, for the most part, they can handle it. You might see a little lag if you don't have the right video card and things like that, but for the most part, you should be able to get there. So let's go ahead and get started. I will take you through a demo of the installation process for Kali Linux, and I think you'll have fun through the demo. And after the demo, when all these tools are available in your arsenal, I think you're going to have a lot more fun. So see you on the other side. Hello, welcome back. So we have installed our VMware workstation, and now the next step here is going to actually get Kali Linux installed. So this is how we're going to do this. You are going to go to your search engine, put in Kali Linux, and there's a downloads button over here. You're simply going to click that, and that is going to bring you over here. Okay, now I talked to you earlier about you get to pick and choose what kind of virtualized environment you want to set up. But I also mentioned that Kali Linux is well integrated with VMware. They're also very well integrated with VBox, if that's the option that you choose to go with. In the event that you're not using either VMware or VBox, you are going to have to figure out what to download. So these two up here are the generic installations of Kali Linux. And what I mean by that is that once you download it, you're going to have to go in and figure out what kind of operating system you want to run. You're going to have to set up network configurations, things like that. Whereas if you do it with one of the more integrated versions, then that's already all done for you. So you need to figure out what it is that you need. If you want the generic one and you want to build it, then it'll be this one or this one. We're not going to go with the light version. And if you're going to do VMware, here's the integrated version for that at 64-bit, 32-bit, VBox 64, and VBox 32. Now, just in case you're wondering, how do I figure out what kind of operating system am I running? Am I running a 32-bit or am I running a 64-bit? And the easy way you can tell by doing that, if you're going to go back to your machine, you're going to go to your C drive, and you're gonna go to your this PC. You're not gonna go to C drive. Okay, and then you're gonna right click, hit properties, and this will bring this up. So this one here tells me what kind of operating system I'm running on top. This will also tell me down here system type. It happens to be a 64-bit operating system. So when I come back here, I know I need to get Kali Linux for VMware for 64-bit. Now, when you're downloading, if you go with the core version of it, you have two options. You could either download it through HTTP or you can download it as a torrent. If you're downloading it as an HTTP, it's a one-to-one connection between you and the server, right? So you're going to download that 2.9 gigs. It'll take whatever it takes. If you do the torrent method, which is a peer-to-peer sharing type of network, depending on number of seeders there are on the other side, that's how quickly you're going to do it. So if you want to do the torrent version, you download the torrent file, which is going to be fairly small. You get yourself a torrent client like BitTorrent or whatever client of your choice. You kick it off in that, and it'll basically download it based on everyone that's seeding. Seeding means they have it on their machine and they're sharing it for upload. So if you use the torrent version, you're gonna have to get the if you're using the torrent version and you finish the download, what happens after that, it automatically goes into the seeding mode. So you're going to be one more seeder out there. And if you want to change that, and you don't want to seed and you don't want your machine constantly uploading data, which I generally never do, you're going to either change the file name, or you're going to remove the file from the torrent site client, or you're going to turn off your torrent client altogether. So just kind of keep that in mind. But we're going down here. We're going to be getting the Kali Linux 64-bit for VMware, and it says that it's available on the Offensive Security download page. So if you click that link, that brings you over here. Now, over here, the only option you have is the torrent website or the torrent download. So we're going to download this torrent, and we are going to have to unzip it. This is running on a 7-zip. So you have options, right? Even if you're running WinZip, it'll work just the same. So for the case of this one, we're going to download 7-zip. And I'm not going to waste your time sitting here. So again, look at this 64-bit. I'm going to download that. It's free. It's open source, whereas if you go with WinZip, it's not open source. They eventually ask you to pay up. So I personally like 7-zip. Gets the job done for me. So while this is downloading, I am going to pause it for a minute. And then when that's done, we'll come back. We will unzip the file. And then we're going to start loading it up onto your VMware or virtualized environment. So bear with me. I'll see you guys in a bit. Okay, guys, so I'm back. So at this point, I have downloaded the Kali Linux image. I have downloaded 7-zip, and now we're going to try to load this thing up. And the cool thing is, I actually found this computer sitting in the basement this morning, and I wanted to run it through the process as if it was a fresh machine, something I hadn't done before, because I'm assuming your machine's not going to have a lot of this stuff installed as well, so we're kind of walking through it together. So really easy, downloaded 7-zip, and then I came here, this file, which was a 7-zip file anyway, now it becomes activated. You simply right click, you go to extract file. So you could do either extract here or extract to a folder. If you do extract here, it'll happen in the parent folder, and there's a lot of files and it gets messy, so I always prefer to put it in a folder. So it's been extracted. It's sitting right over here. As I said, it's a lot of files. Now let's load this guy up. So we are using Kali Linux with VMware, right? Kali Linux is integrated with VMware. If it were not integrated and you need to go through the process of setting things up from scratch, then you're going to create a new virtual machine. But since it is already integrated, you simply open it as if you're opening a pre-existing file. So open It was in the download folder, 2 levels deep. There it is. So when I was testing this and I was doing the dry runs for this, I was working on an older computer, and that thing only had 2 processors. Kali Linux required it to have 4 processors. I don't know what this computer is gonna do for me, but a couple of things I want to kind of point out here. So processors by default is going to be at 4. The username and password is going to be root and tour. So in the event, and I don't know if it'll happen here, but in the event you try to start it up and it comes back into an error saying, hey, you need 4 processors. You only have 2 on this machine. Sorry, I can't help you. I can't turn it on. So in that case, you need to go back and you need to tell the computer, you know what? I authorize to do this on 2 processors. It's going to be slower, but I get it, but I'm taking it, right? And the way you change that is you go to Edit, Virtual Machine Settings. And when that thing shows up, you go to the processors and you get to change any one of these, okay? So it's a multiplication that's happening over here. So you could have 2 processors and number of cores per processor. So if I change this to, now notice it says total core processors is 4. But if I change this to 1, it brings you back down to 2. So now if you hit OK and then you try to reboot, then it'll work. So again, I don't know what's going to happen with this machine. I didn't get a chance to check the processing power. So let's try to boot it up and see if it likes me. If not, we will make the modification. Let's see, virtualized environment is running in long mode. Okay, so don't worry about that. That's not going to impact you here. Now, because I opened up that edit configuration thing, it thinks something has changed. So just simply do, I copied it. Hopefully, if you don't have to change it, you won't even see that screen. Let's see what's going on here. Ooh, this is a good one, actually. So because I haven't done a power cycle of the host machine since the installation of VMware, it's not going to work. This was all installed right in front of you. So what we're going to do is I'm going to stop the video here. We're going to power cycle. We're going to come back and we're going to see if this thing is fixed. If not, then good, right? We'll get the other goal of this course is to hit as many roadblocks as needed, but we will work through them together. So if you see this, let's do a power cycle and come right back. So I'll see you guys in another video. We'll make a part 2 of this one. Hey guys, I'm back. So we did get this figured out. You know, first of all, I hope Eminem doesn't sue me for using that song, but I'm making a new hacker rule. If you use a song for less than 5 seconds, then it's not something they could sue me over. So telling you guys right now, you guys gotta back me up. So what are we looking at? I was able to get this thing figured out, and initially I thought it was going to be a reboot, right? So I'm trying to figure this out as you are, because as I mentioned earlier, this is a brand spanking new machine I'm doing this on. So it's cool though. You guys are probably thinking, I have no idea what I'm doing, and you're probably right. But the reason I'm doing it this way is because you're probably setting it up from scratch as well, and I want to make sure that the type of issues that you may run into, I run into them as well, and we work through them together. So initially, I thought it was going to be a problem with just a reboot, which generally solves a lot of the stuff, right? But in this case, what we had learned was that the virtualized environment within the BIOS wasn't properly set up. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So back in the day, when you're using operating systems that are older than Windows 10, it was easy, right? You do a reboot, and when that happened, you just smash on that F2 button, and you're good to go. In Windows 10, though, they've actually made it a part of the operating system after boot up. So you're going to go to Settings, Update, and Security. You're going to go to Recovery, and you're going to go to Advanced Startup, and you're going to hit Restart Now. I'm not going to do that here because if I do that, my recording will stop, and I'm going to have to do all this over, and I can't use Slim's song again. So what's going to happen is when you hit this button, it's going to bring you to another menu. And the next menu, you're going to hit Troubleshoot. The menu after that, you're going to hit Advanced Options. And then the one after that, you're going to hit UEFI Firmware Settings. And that'll reboot. And when you get back online, it'll automatically go into the BIOS mode. So, all the BIOSes are different based on who the vendor is. But you're going to have to find out. There's going to be a setting in there called Virtualized Technology. By default, in most machines, that is going to be disabled. In my machine, under the Advanced tab, there was the third one down with Virtualized Technology. I simply changed it from disabled to enabled, and let's see if that'll do the job. I hope it does, otherwise it'll be pretty embarrassing. So, again, 4 processors, root and tour, keep that in mind, and I'm just going to hit the play button up here. Let's see what happens. Yeah, look at that. It seems to be going through perfectly. There we go. So it's booting up. It is going to take a few seconds to go through the full boot up process. It's going to load up a bunch of things in the back end. When we start getting into the more complicated tools, like we're going to use Apache and SQL, I talked to you about that, right? I mean, that's pretty straightforward. I'm not too worried about those. But when we start using these other Linux distro tools, we need to make sure that we do the updates. You guys got to keep in mind that the image that you're going to be getting here from the download site is going to be a static image. So when we ever do get to that phase, I will let you know how to do the proper updates to the proper tools. So I'm just going to pause it here while this thing kind of works its way through, and I will see you when this is done. All right, so we're back. So this happened much quicker than it did on the test machine I was working on, so that's a good thing. So let's get us a little bit more room to work here. You can close this out. It's no big deal because if you want to load and unload VMs, you can certainly do it from here as well. So remember what I said. The username is going to be root, ROOT, and the password is going to be TOOR. So what's going to happen while we're waiting for this thing to boot up is you see my mouse here, my cursor over here, right? But if I click it, it goes away. It goes into the virtual machine. So if that happens and you need to get out of the virtual machine to minimize it or whatever, you're going to hit Control and Alt at the same time, and that'll let you back out. Okay, guys, we're up and running, and here it is. So what's going to happen when you boot this thing up is it's going to show up in a small window, and you're not going to be using the full real estate of your VM environment. So what you have to do is go to View, Auto Size, make sure it's on Auto Fit Guest, and it should work. So now that we're in it, there's a lot of tools here, right? 600 plus tools, as we've mentioned previously. So over here, you've got Firefox, you've got your terminal, and you've got your folders. For the sake of setting everything up for your hacking environment, we're going to be using those 3 exclusively. As far as the tools go, we're not going to be using them here. We'll talk about the vulnerability. We'll talk at a high level how to exploit them. But for the most part, we're going to be getting through these at the next stage. So as you can see here, VMware is broken out into 14 different categories. You have everything from information gathering, where you can find things like Nmap and Maltego, right? So if you're not familiar with what Nmap is, it's basically a port scanning tool. So if you are running a port scanner on a web server, you can figure out what ports and services are open and which ones are closed, and then it's the open ones that you can look for vulnerabilities in. The next one here is vulnerability analysis. You've got tools like NIC2 in here. I've used that one before. You've got web application analysis, and you're going to have to excuse this. This is running a little slow. Over here, you've got Peros and Web Scarab. So Peros is a proxy tool that'll help you figure out how is traffic going back and forth on a web server. Web Scarab, you listen to the two words, break them out, web and scarab. What do you think of? You think of a spider. And that's precisely what it is. It's a spidering web application that'll go and spider a web app to tell you what kind of pages there are, what kind of folders there may be. So it gives you more insight on what a website is configured as. The next one here is database assessment, and over here you've got SQL Map, SQL Ninja, right? This is for exploitation of database vulnerabilities. So I talked to you guys before about the exploitation of one of our company's websites, and I was able to steal tens of thousands of credit card numbers, and that was through SQL Map. So there's going to be two different SQL injection vulnerabilities you're going to be working on. You're going to have straight up SQL injection, which is pretty straightforward. You do it right through the web browser, or there's going to be blind SQL injection, and that's where you're going to be using something like SQL Map. And then you've got over here password attacks, and over here you've got things like John the Ripper, you've got Off Crack, you've got Rainbow Crack. These are all tools that you're going to use to do brute force cracking on a web application, given that it doesn't lock you out. You've got wireless attacks, and these are a lot of fun, right? You're not going to be, unfortunately, using them as a part of the exploits that you put out there, but you can certainly use them on your home Wi-Fi network. And these tools are going to allow you to basically fool the wireless network into letting you on. And how you're going to do that is you could do a brute force. You can take a user that's actually authenticated to the wireless network and kick them off. And then when they try to re-authenticate to get back on, which happens instantaneously and automatically, then you can capture that traffic. So you're going to be using Wireshark for something like that. And I think we'll see that later here. You've got reverse engineering tools. You've got exploitation tools, sniffing, and spoofing. So if I'm correct, Wireshark should show up here, and it does. So Wireshark is amazing. So, I mean, you could build a 12-hour course on Wireshark alone. It gives you the ability to look at traffic that goes back and forth between the server, and you can test it for leakage of sensitive information. You could test it for hacking traffic that may be coming through your network. There was a time where I was sitting next to my brother on a couch, and he was logging into a website. So when you log into a website, or when you traverse through the internet anywhere, if it's not SSL enabled, when the traffic is going back and forth, that data passes in clear text. So my brother's logging into this financial website. It was not using SSL. I was sitting right next to him. I had Wireshark open. We both were on the same wireless network. And as soon as he put his username and password in, I kind of tilted my computer over to him, and I was like, hey, by the way, is this your password? And he was just like, oh my God, you're a magician. I was like, oh my God, no, I was just using Wireshark. So Wireshark is really, really cool. So you can use, well, I'm not going to say this officially, but I know people that have used it in coffee shops, airports, because everybody ends up on the same network, right? And then after that, there's traffic passing in the clear. It's a dangerous tool. Post-exploitation. So this is the section where, okay, so you've gotten in there and you were able to exploit something. Now, how do you create a backdoor for yourself so that you can go back in and continue exploiting? Or how do you hide your tracks? And these are the tools that are going to help you do that. Forensics investigation is another section, reporting tools, social engineering tools, and then system services. So system services, when you look at what we have Beef and Tratus. I mentioned to you that we're going to be using SQL Map and Apache. Neither of those are listed here for some reason, but I assure you that they are a part of the core um, VM or Kali Linux dump. So we'll be getting to that. So now I'm hoping that you are where I'm at. You have gotten your virtualized environment set up. You have gotten Kali Linux set up. You have taken a look at some of the tools that are available to you. Your machine's definitely going to run faster than mine because right now I've got the cheap machine to start with. I have the virtualized environment competing with the recording software. So there's a lot going on my machine, but you guys will be working hopefully a lot quicker than I am. So now we're going to leave it off here. And then the next demo video that you're going to see from me is we're going to be getting your first vulnerability tool, which is going to be damn vulnerable web application installed on your machine. And that's going to be a lot of fun. That's going to be very much hands-on. We're going to be doing some Linux coding or Linux commands, and then I think you'll have fun. So I'll see you at the next video, okay? See you guys. All right, good deal. So you've got Kali Linux all set up, hopefully, without too much trouble, and we've got a lot of power in your hands right now. So let's figure out how do you use that power, right? How do you use it in a safe, controlled environment? So we're going to download the first of the two vulnerable applications within the environment. The first one is going to be Damn Vulnerable Web Application, DVWA. So what is a DVWA? It's a PHP and MySQL web application that is deliberately made damn vulnerable. Okay, its main goals are to be an aid for security professionals to test their skills, tools in a legal environment, and help web developers, basically the remediation process. So this came right from their website, and it's very much similar to the message I've been giving you. Legal environment and remediation. Keep that in mind. So let's go ahead and get to the demo of how to install this bad boy. Hey guys, we are back. So now at this point you should have your virtualized environment set up. You should have Kali Linux loaded up, and that'll give you all the tools that you're going to need to do your ethical hacking. Now, you're going to need some kind of vulnerable environment so you can test these tools and kind of build your skill set, right? So the first thing we're going to install and work on is called Damn Vulnerable Web Application. And we're going to do this in two phases. So back in the day, when you used a Linux environment, it was very much command based, right? And this was like 10 years ago. Now they've come a long way, and a lot of the stuff that you can do in Windows, you can do in Linux. But back then it was all command based through the terminal. So we're going to teach you that. And then you are going to hate me for this, but you are going to learn something from this. And as you're using some of these more complex tools within Kali Linux, you are going to have to use some of these commands. So, sorry, but this will help you. So, first things first, right? We want to know, we want the damn vulnerable web application. So, I'm going to simply open it up, and I'm going to go to that website. So, I had previously opened it. So I simply right clicked on it and then went to this all windows thing. Think of this as the tabs in Firefox or something, right? So it just shows up here. So I put a damn vulnerable web application in the URL in the search box. Right up front, you have the overall website. Here you can learn about it, read about it. But over here, the second one is where you can go to actually download it. Now, you can truly download it, go there, click this link, download it, put it wherever you want as you would in a Windows environment, and then run through it. But we're going to do it a different way. We're going to do it through the terminal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a terminal window. And as soon as that thing opens up, we're going to say, hey, you know what? Go to this website, which we just copied from there, and download this thing for me. So you're going to do git clone, and then just simply put the URL in. Okay? Now, again, remember what I said. You can download it, you can extract it, you can save it wherever you want, but look at this. This thing took care of that, right? But you know what? We're going to go one step further. We're going to say, you know what? Download it, but put it on the desktop. So CD desktop. Okay? Now it's on the desktop folder. Because I'm lazy, I don't want to go and find this thing. And now we're going to do it again. Git clone and paste it. Okay, and you'll see that it popped up over here right away. So, I was not kidding when I told you that I'm lazy. The DVWA in caps is different from DVWA in lowercase when it comes to this environment. So, just so I don't have to go back and forth between caps and not, we're just going to change this. We're going to say move DVWA, and we're going to call it DVWA lowercase. Okay, now as soon as I hit enter, you'll see that the folder over here is going to change. So now it's lowercase. See that? So we've downloaded this damn vulnerable web application on our desktop, and now we need to figure out where do we put it. So in order for you to do that, you need two things. You need to first of all figure out what are you going to use to run it. In our case, we're going to use Apache. And secondly, where do you need to put it so Apache can read it? So what we're going to do is we're going to open up a folder structure to figure out where does Apache want me to put it for it to run properly. So this has opened up. You're going to go to other locations down here. This will start taking you towards the root. Hit computer. Apache resides in etc, Apache 2, sites enabled, and this default configuration file. So here's your Apache thing. This is what it's telling me, okay? Go down to the document root. It's saying that I will run your files as long as they're in this folder. So let's kind of navigate to that folder. So again, other locations, computer. It's telling me go to var, www, HTML. Okay? So right now the folder is empty. In your case, with the default installation, there might be 2 files in there. You could get rid of those. But it's telling me over here that it needs to be in there. So let's take your damn vulnerable web application and let's put it in there. Okay? So the way we're going to do that is let's go there. So cd var. Oh, we can't do uppercase. It's going to hate me if I do that. Oh, look at that. There's no file or directory. And the reason it's doing that is because we haven't put it there. So let's move it first. So DVWA, and let's move it to var www HTML. Okay, done. Now if I go back to my desktop, you are not going to see this file here anymore because it's been moved. See, it's gone. Okay, now let's go to that folder and make sure it's there. So we're going to do cd var www HTML DVWA. Now I'm in that folder. Now if I do ls, which is the list function, it's going to show me everything that's in there. Okay, so we've downloaded it, we've transferred it to the right folder, and now you're going to have to do something. Actually, you know what? I'll show you how to do this. Okay, so let's do Apache 2 service, Apache 2 start. So we're basically saying, hey, Apache, I know you're on this machine. Why don't you go ahead and get started, okay? And then we have to go and test if it's going to work. 127. What's home, right? 001. That's home, right? So we're going to do that. And then we know it's in the DVWA folder. And then let's do index.php. And that's not working, right? It's saying the configuration file isn't right. I can't find it. But the interesting thing about this is if I minimize this, let's go back to that folder. And you're probably wondering, why is he doing index.php? Because it's one of the files. Actually, you know what? Better yet, let's do it this way. We're going to say list again, which is ls. And you're probably wondering, here's index.php. That's the one I was trying to run, right? But when you look in here, they also have something in here called robots.txt. So if I go back to that terminal, go back to my browser, and I change this to robots.txt, you'll see that one worked. PHP didn't work, but robots.txt worked, right? So a text file is reading perfectly. It's not reading the PHP file. So what we need to do is we need to change something here. We need to go to the config. Now look up here, right? There's a folder called config. So I'm going to do cd config, which is basically saying take me into that folder. And what's it doing here? There we go. So we're in that folder now. Now I'm going to hit list. Now, the file in there, the configuration file, is called config.inc.php.dist. In order for you to be able to run PHP here, you need to change that file to not be a .dist. It needs to be a PHP file for it to work. So what we're going to do is we're going to move this, and we're going to say take this config.inc.php.dist file, and we're going to make it a config. Oops, sorry, I'm supposed to be using dots here. These are not folders. This is a file. Okay, so now we're going to say take this and call it config.inc.php. Okay, so I want to open it up in here so you could see it happening as I do it. Okay, so it's the DST file, right? And I put in this code over here, and now as soon as I hit enter, you'll see that now it's a PHP file. Now, when I try to run it through the browser, it'll work. All Windows. Index.php. And there you go. Okay? So, what do we do here? We started Apache. We changed the configuration file up so that it can work with PHP. And now you've got this thing up and running. So, now that you're over here, there are a couple of things that you need to do. You're going to look down here and it'll give you the error codes down here. So the first thing it's telling me is that it's unable to connect to the database. And the reason why it's unable to connect to the database is because we haven't started the service for MySQL yet. So I'm going to minimize this, and same exact thing to start the service for MySQL. You're going to do service, MySQL, start. Okay, so it's working on that right now. Now, in the event that you're not sure if something is running or if it's not running and you just want to make sure, I'll show you the next command here that'll show you how to check the status of anything that you're running. So it went ahead and did that. Now, let's make sure that Apache 2 is running. Service Apache 2 status. And you'll see up here it says active and running. Okay? Now I'm going to hit Control C so we can move on. And Control C kind of brings you back to the command line. Now that we know that the server is running, let's make sure the database is running. And how do I do that? I'm hoping that you're yelling this out as an answer. So service MySQL status. And over here as well, active and running. Okay? So we know everything is working fine. So let's go back to your terminal and see what happens now. So remember it was saying unable to connect to the database. That was because the database was not running. Now it is running. So now it's going to give me the option. Hey, do you want to go ahead and create the database so we can get going here? And I'm going to say yes. Let's get the ball rolling. And of course, we have another error. Okay? So there are two errors here. But at the end of the day, there's one root cause and one thing that we're going to fix. Number one is saying that it could not connect to the MySQL service. Check the config file. And your database is root. If you're using the MariaDB, which we are, then this will not work. So we need to do a couple of changes here. So I'm going to walk you through that, okay? So what this is saying basically is you're using root as your user and it doesn't want you to do that. So we need to create a new account and we'll call it something else. We'll give it root privileges and then that way we bypass this issue. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to minimize this window someday. And back over here again, we're going to do, how do we do this again? So MySQL, okay, that takes you into the database. And over here, it shows that we're using MariaDB. But we're going to say, okay, MariaDB, I want you to use MySQL, right? And now you'll see that it says none up here, but as soon as I did that, it changed the database to MySQL. Now we're going to create a user, and let's just call it root2, okay? And we're going to say identified by password, and you're going to close it with this colon, this semicolon, okay? And now the next thing is we're going to say, you know what, grant all the privileges to this account. So grant all privileges on to root2, semicolon again. Okay, now we're going to update user set plugin equals that, where user equals root. So we're tying it back to that root account. Now let's flush privileges. Okay. And now we need to go to the configuration file. So what we're going to do, DVWA config. So we can close this out. I'm going to hit Control C and that gets me out of here and aborts everything. Okay, but all the changes have been done. So we're already in the config file. Let's go to ls. We know that this file is sitting there, right? Remember, this is a file that was the .dist. We changed it. Now let's open this thing up because we're going to have to put the new username and password in here. So I want to say leafpad, which is like a text editor, config.inc.php. And simply what this is going to do is it's going to open up that file so we can go in there and make the modifications. Okay, so remember this? This should look familiar to you. We looked at this before. This is what will tell us, oh, actually we haven't looked at this one. Okay, so this is the way your database is going to be set up. And we're going to change this and we're going to say root2. And if you remember, we made the password. Okay, so I'm going to save it and I'm going to close it. Okay, so create root2, which is the username, and this is the password. And that's simply what I put in there. Okay, now let's try and go back here. So all the errors that we've seen thus far, we've kind of worked through. So now if I hit the create the database button, it'll work. Because of my slow computer, the button might not work, but the function behind it will work. There it goes. So as soon as I hit that button, it created the database in the back end and it started working. So we need to log in, and the default username and password for damn vulnerable web application is going to be admin and password. So admin and password, these are pretty bad, pretty common, right? I mean, hey, that's why this is a damn vulnerable web application. So you could remember it if you want, but for the sake of this video, I won't. Okay, so we're in. Congratulations, you set it up. I'm extremely proud of you. My little boy and girl is growing up. So now that you're in here, you've got all these different things that we're going to be working with at some point down the road. One of the first things I want to kind of share with you here is it has something in here called DVWA security. And this is why I like this application so much. So DVWA security comes with 4 different security levels. Okay. As you're working your way through this, you want to start with low, and it's just bad coding practices, really easy to exploit. You're going to be doing some of these exercises and be like, that's it? And it really is it. But once you've kind of gone through and fully understood how to do everything at the low level, work your way up to medium, high, and then impossible, and then when you go out to these external websites to do hacking, you will be well versed in this. So the way you change this is this drop down box. For the sake of this video, we're going to submit it to low, and now you will see the current security level is low. So what are we looking at in here, right? Actually, do you guys want to talk about that now? We could do it. I mean, this video is already over 19 minutes long, so I'll tell you what. I'm going to shut this video down right now. We'll call it installation of DVWA. I'm going to do another video right after this in which I'm going to explain to you what all these things are here on the left side, what the vulnerability is, when you finally get around to it, what's the type of exploit you can expect to do. So I wanted to leave it at 19 minutes, me saying that last thing, it just added on another 30 seconds. So I'm going to stop right here, right now. I'll see you at the next video. See ya. Hey guys. Okay. So I totally forgot. I mentioned in the last video that I am going to show you how to do this the easy way as well, which is going to be very much like how Windows works. So what we're going to do here is we are actually going to go through. It's easier if the first method didn't work for you, which I hope it did. Then you can try this method. But this is just to show you how you can get this thing done much easier than what I had shown you earlier. Again, the benefit of the other way is you should get your hands dirty and kind of understand how the terminal works. So if that didn't work for you, I'm going to do it again. It'll be simpler. It'll be more like how Windows works. And if the first one did work for you and you're content with what you have there, then by all means, feel free to skip this video. So I went and did a search on damn vulnerable web application. I hit the link that shows their main page. That brings me here, explains the application, and then the download button. So we are going to save this file. Hit OK. I don't even know where this is going. It's probably going to the download folder. Okay, so let's see where it went. See, this is why I don't like this. Remember how the other one was? It was so easy. GitHub, you're done. Or, okay, so I'm going to check out. Here it is, okay? So we're going to cut it out of here, put it back on our desktop, make it somewhat similar to the last exercise that we did. Paste. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to extract it. So extract to, right, now if you did extract here, it would have just, actually, you know what, we could do extract here because it's a folder contained within a folder. So let's just do that. Extract here. Okay, but for the sake of redoing this and not breaking anything, what we're going to do is we're going to call this DVWA2. Okay, so everything that you need is in here. Same exact thing, guys. Okay, we've downloaded it, we've extracted it, we know where it's going to run, and just in case you've forgotten, I'll show you again. We're going to go to other location. We're still going to use Apache to run this bad boy. So Etsy, Apache 2, sites enabled, default. Again, it's still going to run here. Okay, you can actually change this to have it run wherever you want. So we're going to take that folder and we're going to plop it in there. So let's just cut. See how this is just like Windows, but it's, I don't know, I'm lazy. I don't like doing things, so I just find it easier through the other method. So we're saying var www html. Now, the DVWA folder from the last exercise is still there, but it's okay because we've named this DVWA2. So the only difference is when we fire up or try to fire this up, we're going to take it to 127.0.0.1 and we're going to have to say it's in DVWA2. So let's try that. Okay. So again, 127.0.0.1, DVWA2, remember that? And now we're going to do index.php. You're going to get the same error about the configuration file, but just to reconfirm that we're at least in the right folder, we know that the text file works, so let's see. Okay, so right where we were last time. So text file works, and the next thing we need to do is make that modification. DVWA2. Remember we did the MV function last time. In here, you're simply going to take this, rename it, and take the dist off. Seems easier, but I don't know. I like the other method better. So let's go back here. Now let's do index.php. And there you go. So again, same deal, right? Now, the problem is Apache still, or MySQL is still running. So let's stop that to show as if we're starting over, right? So unfortunately, you do have to go to the terminal for this. But this is good, right? I told you that you need to make sure that if you're starting services, you need to stop services. So this is how you do it. So service, Apache, to stop. Simple. And it's still going through the process in the back end to do the stopping. So that's done. Now let's do service, Apache 2, status. And you'll see up here that it's inactive. Okay, it's dead. Okay, now the other thing I want to do is stop the MySQL. So service, MySQL, stop. You know, you can actually do both of them together, right? So I'll show you how we do that. So once this is done, the next step will be service, MySQL status. And this will also tell me that it's inactive and dead, right? So Control C, let's get out of here. Now, going back here, this should not work at all. As a matter of fact, robots.txt, oh, that works. Wow, that's interesting. So PHP should not work. Okay, because the service is not running. Okay, the text file is running because it's simply reading the text file. So, what we're gonna do is we're gonna start them up, but we're gonna start them up together. Okay, we're gonna do service, Apache 2. I can't spell, guys. You didn't sign up for this course for spelling. I'm sorry. G2 start and double ampersand service MySQL start. And this is going to kick off both of the services at the same time. Okay, there it goes. So we're not going to do both of them again. I think you guys get the hint, but we'll just do a status on Apache and you'll see it's active and running. So let's go back here. We started up our web server. We started up our MySQL database. And now this should work. It better work. It may work. I hope it works. There we go. Okay. So that's it. It is going to be looking for the other username and password. I don't know why it's not making me create it, but in the event that it needs to create it, you're going to do the same exact process of creating a MySQL account. So that's it, guys. We are exactly where we were with the last video. We have 10 minutes less, which is pretty cool. So now in the next video that I'm going to create, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about each of these vulnerabilities, and we should be good to go. The only thing here that is missing, though, is the DVWA. It is back to default, which is impossible. Make sure you make it low and work your way up. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Okay, see ya. Hey guys. Okay, so you've got your VM set up, you've got Kali Linux set up, you've got your damn vulnerable web application set up, and now let's take a few minutes to talk about what it is. What kind of vulnerabilities can you expect here? What do they mean for you? What kind of tools you may be getting your hands on to make this happen, right? So right down here are all of the different type of vulnerabilities. We won't go through all of them, but we will be going through some of them. So brute force, this is pretty straightforward. This is when you try to brute force an application to try to guess the password. The limitation here from a remediation standpoint is you want to have applications locked down to a number of failed attempts before the account gets locked out for a limited time or permanently until somebody unlocks it. So say it's set up at 5 failed lockouts, that brute force will only work 5 times, or the attempt, before it locks you out. If you have a system that doesn't lock out at all, I could sit here and brute force away at that thing all day long. So what you're going to do here is you are going to brute force the password of a web application when you get into it. You're going to be doing some reconnaissance work. You're going to get your hands on Burp Suite to understand how the authentication of the site works. And then you're going to be using THC Hydra or whatever your tool may be to do a brute force attack using the dictionary. So that one is pretty straightforward in the low one, but as you progress up, this one's a lot of fun. Command injection and command execution. So a command execution is where a website application provides the ability to execute system commands. So this section of the damn vulnerability application has a web app that allows you to ping an IP address. A very simple web application. I really don't want us to get into the to too much detail here, but whenever this does decide that it wants to open up, simply what it does is, hey, you can go here, put in an IP address, and it'll ping it to make sure that it's live, right? And you can ping it through your terminal window as well. So I can put an IP address here, and it'll do it. The problem with this is this page inherently is flawed and vulnerable. So what you can do is you can actually put command codes in there that are going to give you backend database. So you're simply fooling the system into giving you information. The next one is cross-site request forgery. And with this type of attack, you basically write a user session, right? And you figure out what the session ID is, you go in, you replay that session ID, and now you are logged in as that user. File inclusion, it's similar to the file upload attack that you see right below it. The only difference between the two is the file uploading attack uses the uploading function on the target's website, but the file inclusion attack uses this user supplies input. So you're going to be tricking the server into using the same function to actually read the files on the server. File upload, we kind of talked about that. You upload a file here. CAPTCHA is not enabled on this. We can talk about how to do that. SQL injection is basically where you are going to be putting malicious code in a SQL statement to get the page to give you an output, something from the backend database. So over here on the low security level, it's pretty easy. We'll put a code in here. It'll give us information. The blind SQL injection down here is where you're going to be actually using SQL map to do the exploitation. Cross-site scripted or cross-site scripting reflected. So this one is basically you're going to modify the URL in a manner where it'll display the result you want it to display. So say, for example, that in the URL, I want to put in that so-and-so has no idea what they're doing, right? What happens is that'll get captured in the URL. Now, I can capture that URL, send it to so-and-so, and have them or trick them into clicking this URL. And when they do, it'll be like so-and-so doesn't know what the heck they're doing, right? So it's basically you inject a script, but it sits on your client as opposed to on the web server. So that error message will only pop up if the person clicks on it. It's a little harder to exploit as you need this other person to click on it in order for it to be exploited. So we're simply going to take the input box here, put some JavaScript code in there, and that'll tell you that'll allow you to use cross-site scripting. And then you've got cross-site scripting stored. All right, this is a little bit more complex, a little bit more involved. This is where you actually up your code to sit on the server. Now, your target is not just so-and-so who you're sending this link to, hoping that they're going to click on it. Your target is anyone and everyone that comes to this website. So in this, you're going to have to gain shell access to the server and upload the script. So this one I like a lot as well. So a lot of cool stuff here, guys. I think you need to figure out, work your way through it, figure out what works, what doesn't, and continue building your skill set. But this is a very, very good start, and I wish you the best of luck. So when we come back, this is only the first of the 2 vulnerable items we're going to be putting on your server. The next one is going to be WebGoat. So we'll do the installation on that, and again, we'll talk through what the vulnerabilities are. So we'll talk then. See ya. Hey, how you guys feeling? So you've got your VMware set up, you've got Kali Linux, all these tools, you've got your first vulnerable app set up. You've got a lot of power and you got a lot of work ahead of you right now. So let's do this second vulnerable app onto your VM, which is called WebGoat. Now, WebGoat is a product of OWASP, and I kind of talked about that a little bit later, but WebGoat is a deliberately insecure web application maintained by OWASP. It's designed to teach web application security lessons. The program is a demonstration of common server-side security, and it is intended to be used by people to learn about application security and pen testing. And the cool thing about OWASP is, remember that disclaimer I put up right up front at the presentation? OWASP does the same exact thing. Nobody wants the liability. So WebGoat is next. We're going to work on this one. So I think the best way is let's get to the demo. Hey guys, so at this point you should have your VMware set up, your virtualized environment, you should have Kali Linux loaded up and working, you should have DAM vulnerable web application up and running, and now we're going to get you set up with WebGoat. WebGoat is the other vulnerability app that we're going to be focused on today. So what we're going to do is I had to do some testing before I made a live video on this, so I had to download a couple of things. So we're going to get rid of those, okay? So let's start off by trying to download it. We're going to do this through, a lot of it is going to be through the Windows type of environment. So no hard coding for you guys this time. Just a little bit. We're going to run one Java function, but it won't be too bad. So WebGoat. It is created by OWASP. And if you don't know who OWASP is, you should learn about them. OWASP is a body that every year they release um, a bulletin where they list the top 10 web application vulnerabilities that they're seeing around the world. So as a pen tester, this was our Bible of where we want to focus our efforts, because these are the type of things that are most vulnerable and most likely being gone after. So definitely look into OWASP. So OWASP has created this thing called WebGoat, right? So what we're going to do is you're going to do a quick search on WebGoat GitHub. I believe that's what I had done here. Yes, so I did WebGoat space GitHub, and that brings me over here. I'm going to hit the 15 releases, and they make two different things. They make something called WebGoat, and they make something else which they're calling, well, it'll show up. I'll show you. It's called, God, why am I not remembering this? Oh, WebWolf. That's a whole different one. So what we're going to do is, once you come to this web page, you want to download the jar file, which is the Java file. And this one is actually pretty easy to set up compared to what we had done for the damn vulnerable web application. So we're going to do a quick download of this. It'll take about 50 seconds. It is fairly quick. So once this thing gets downloaded, I'll show you the next steps here. There we go. We're going to just save it. You know, one thing I don't like about this environment is that, or maybe I just haven't figured it out, but everything gets saved to the download folder. I mean, in my world, I would want everything saved directly to the desktop or something just for easy access, but whatever. Like, look at all the benefit you get out of it, right? So up here, you'll see there's less than a minute left. This will go fairly quickly, and while it's doing that, let's go and get prepped here. 16 seconds left. So we're going to go over to the download folder, and it's being downloaded again. So well, no, it's being downloaded now. So here's the partial download here. So when it finishes doing that, there we go. Okay, so first and foremost, let's get it out of here and let's put it on our desktop. Okay, now again, just so we don't have to go and do all this extra typing later, we're going to simplify it. I'm going to right click, rename it, and we're going to call it WebGoat. Okay, I got rid of the server and the 8.00 because when we're doing the jar command later, it's less typing for you to worry about. So we've got WebGoat downloaded, we've got it put on our desktop, we've got it renamed. Now we're simply going to open up the terminal and we're going to run a Java function on it. Okay, so we know that it's on the desktop, so cd desktop, cd desktop. Okay, sorry, I can't spell, guys. Okay, now we're going to do java.jar webgoat.jar. So you're basically making use of that Java file, right? Lowercase w, lowercase g, and you simply just hit enter. And it will do something very soon. So while it's working its way through that, let's open up Firefox to start working here. So all windows. And over here, we're going to do localhost, and you can change what port this is running on. And you will need to change what port this is running on, because when you use like Pero's proxy, that also runs on port 8080. So does this. So you're going to have to make a decision which one do you want running on 8080? So you can change that configuration on any one of these. So WebGoat. Now, even though we named it WebGoat lowercase, over here you're going to do WebGoat capital W capital G because it's reading the file, the jar file, right? And then start MVC. Okay, so before I hit enter, let's see, make sure that this is in fact doing its thing in the background. And yes, it is. Look, so it's kicked off. Now, the one thing about WebGoat you want to remember is that when you're using WebGoat, this terminal window in the background has to stay open. If you shut down the terminal window, it will shut down um, the application. The other thing that I want you to remember is in damn vulnerable web application, we had to manually go in and turn on the Apache server for it to work. In the case of this, look, it's already doing it as a part of the startup process. So let's go back to your window here. And let's put in this command, localhost 8080, that's the port, webgoat start.mvc, and we failed. We failed miserably. So why did it fail here? Okay, so I'm gonna give you a couple of seconds to think about this. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I gave you a few seconds to think about this. And the reason why it failed is because there's a lot going on in the background right now. And it's still booting up. So be patient with this one. So when it is done, you will see a message that says it is done. And then you can go ahead and figure that out or reload it. Now, the cool thing is, and we'll talk more about this when it is fully downloaded, you've got challenges. So remember in damn vulnerable web application, you had levels, right? These difficulty level, low, medium, high, impossible. Over here, they have challenges, 1 through whatever the number goes to. And as you progress through these different challenges, the more complex and difficult it gets. So again, the goal here is to give you a little bit and let you work your way up. So I'm hoping you're going to enjoy this one as well. So I'm going to pause the video. I'm going to let it continue loading up. And then when it does, we'll open up Firefox again. We'll run that function again, and it should be up and running. So let's hang tight. Okay, guys. So it is fully loaded up now. So we're going to go ahead and try to make sure that it's working. Again, localhost 8080. That's the port on which this is running. Keep your fingers crossed. And there you have it. So it did load up. So there is no default username and password for this. So you actually have to register as a new user here. You can put whatever you want to put in here, right? You got to keep in mind that whatever data you put in here is going to be stored on your local device. It doesn't go anywhere outside. So let's do username Superman and now password. ABC123, ABC123. You gotta agree with the terms and conditions. That basically says this is for educational purposes only. Everybody wants to get that out there because nobody wants the liability in the event that somebody goes and does something wrong. And there we go. So Superman is officially logged in. So same deal, right? We have all the things here on the left side that show the type of vulnerabilities that you're going to be able to exploit. Injection flaws, we talked about that. Authentication flaws, that's basically if there is a gap in the way it's being authenticated, you can exploit it, right? And the fact that SSL may not be deployed, that might be another thing. Cross-site scripting, we talked about that. Access control flaws, insecure communication. Actually, this is where I think your God, that tool is skipping my mind now. That tool I talked about earlier, guys. What was it? Oh, Wireshark. That's what it is. Forgeries, we talked about that. So there's a lot of stuff going on here, right? You're going to have the opportunity to kind of work your way through it. So again, when you saw it going through and loading up all these exercises, level 1 through level 9, they're all going to be here. So work your way through this, get familiar with what kind of vulnerabilities there are, get familiar with the right type of tools that you should be using, and get at it, guys. So that's about it for this one. So we will see you in the next lesson, which is the external websites. See you guys. Okay, guys. So we're getting to the end here, and I know you will miss me dearly when this is all said and done. But I'm hoping you're getting some value out of this. So at this point, we set up your virtualized environment, Kali Linux, damn vulnerable web application, and WebGoat. Right? These things are all contained within your environment. So what we need to do now is what I want to do now is share with you a couple of external facing websites that are out there and vulnerable for the sake of you and going out there and trying things out. So work your way through your virtualized environment, get good at it, and then when you're ready, you go out to these websites. Okay. So the first one I want to talk to you about is called Hack This Site. You know, I'm not even running this on the virtual machine. It's still this slow. Can you believe that? So it's hackthisite.org, and this is deliberately put out there for you to hack it. Okay? So they have missions over here, and again, these things work their way up. So depending on what it is that you've gotten good at, you're going to go over here and try to continue exploiting it. You are going to have to register for this site. So keep that in mind. You know, my only advice to you here is understand what you're dealing with. Okay, you're dealing with a site that is made for hacking. Okay, I know that by default, humans have a tendency to use the same username and password across the board. And I have exploited that before, and I would give you the details about that, but I would get in trouble. But make sure that you use something very, very not standard when you're logging into these sites. So just an FYI. So they have a lot of cool things over here. They have the basic missions, realistic missions. Little by little, they work their way up. You're going to be looking at application missions, right? This is both going to be from a like an exe type of application to a web application. JavaScript mission. We talked a little bit about that in the cross-site scripting stuff I told you about. Forensics mission, that you're going to get a little bit out of. This is where you're going to get to use some of the tools, the forensics tools that were found in Kali Linux. Steganography, that is the process of hiding messages within messages. So a lot of cool stuff here, but my advice to you is work your way up to this. Don't jump to it right away. And then the other one I wanted to share with you was Testfire. So Testfire is a lot of fun. So it is a fake banking website. Okay, so up here it looks like a standard website from a banking standpoint. Down here is the disclaimer. This is a website published for the sole purpose of demonstrating effectiveness of products and detecting web application vulnerabilities and defects. This is not a real banking website. So, cool thing is you get to mess around here. And you need to, again, if you're going to create an account here, be very careful. Don't use your username and password because you don't know who's getting that on the other side. Okay? So, these are the external websites. Work your way up to them. Okay? I haven't used this one much myself, but I have used the other one that we looked at, Hack the Site. So what you learn in your contained environment is going to be a good boost up as you work your way to hack the site. So take that for what it is, and I will see you in the next video in which I believe we start closing out. Okay? Thanks, guys. Alright guys, you made it. You guys finally made it. So here we are at the conclusion. Okay, I want to take a few minutes to kind of reiterate some of the things I talked about earlier and make sure we really drive these points home. And again, I want to hit on the takeaways I mentioned earlier. So set up your own lab. You've done that. Be very careful. If you turn something on, make sure you turn it off. Segregate from the network. Take your time, exploit, research what you don't understand. Trust me on this, guys. You are going to get more out of taking the extra time in learning what worked and what didn't work than you are actually doing the pen testing. That's where you're going to learn. Do not forget that step. Think about remediation. Honestly, that's where the money's at. Don't hack at external websites. Again, this course is for educational purposes only. Please be safe with that and work your way up. So what I mean by this last new bullet point is that you have these contained, controlled environments with the invulnerable web app and WebGoat. Get in there, get through the different levels, get comfortable, and then work your way to the external websites that I shared with you. Once you're there, you're good to go. And lastly, I want to say thank you again very much. I appreciate the purchase of this course. And if you happen to be a member of Facebook, we would love to have you as a part of training camp. Hear your feedback, hear your thoughts, hear feedback from you, what kind of courses we should be making in the near future. So you can look them up on IS Training Camp.